This is the best drone I've ever owned, the DJI Air 3. It's actually changed the way I think about drones because it's kind of weird, like a platypus. In some ways, it's worse than its predecessor, the Air 2S, but then in others, it's just as good or better than the much more expensive Mavic 3. Today on Video Votech, I want to give you my long-term review of the Air 3, as well as discuss how to choose the right drone for you. A quick disclaimer. This video isn't sponsored by anyone, and I purchased the gear mentioned with my own money. This video is, however, supported by our editing assets that are available on videosauce.store. I'll put the link in the description. So, 6 months ago, I upgraded from the Air 2S to the Air 3. And these incremental upgrades in gear are always really a struggle. And the one thing that made this even harder was the smaller sensor that's on the Air 3. And this is a techie camera thing, but typically larger sensors produce a better image. So I was afraid to upgrade, but after using it, I can confidently say that I really don't care about sensor size. I really liked the image quality that I'm getting out of this drone. Both of the cameras look phenomenal, and I said this about the Air 2S, but I really don't need anything better for the video work I'm doing. I like to put gear into perspective, and it wasn't that long ago that the Phantom line was the industry standard, and the quality for those was not even close to this. So why would I spend $1,600 almost making a lateral move to a different drone that's not really technically better? Because the main frustration I had with the Air 2S over and over again was the battery life. There were several times where I struggled to even get the drone back and land in time while the controller was beeping and screaming at me. And then I would do one flight and have 33% left on a battery, and it kind of puts that battery in no man's land as far as using it again. But at 46 minutes of flight time, the Air 3 battery lasts plenty long for anything that I can throw at it. And with the 3 batteries that come with the Fly More kit, I'm getting an even longer flight time than I had with the 4 batteries that came with the Air 2S, at about 2.5 hours. This is just a small technicality, but this drone does fly 5 minutes longer than the much more expensive Mavic 3 Pro. So it actually beats it in that category. The 70mm lens has also been a game changer for me. And I think for freelancers or small production companies, this is now basically a must-have. We've all seen great wide-angle aerials, and the longer lens is a really fresh perspective, and it's super dynamic. The big selling point for me was that the 70mm camera is the exact same as the Mavic 3 Pro. So anytime I'm using it, it just feels good to be on the exact same level for half the cost. One thing I didn't really give much attention to, but has been awesome, is the new night mode on these drones. Paired with the 1.7 aperture, it really is way better than it should be. It opens up a whole new possibility that I could not get with my Air 2S, which really wasn't that great in low light. I've been shifting over the past few years from wanting everything raw, untouched, straight out of camera, to appreciating things like this that are solid and save me time from having to do it later. I've also really enjoyed the speed of this drone. I can get the drone in place much quicker and go way further, and sometimes on those really wide landscapes, you need a lot more speed than you'd think so that the move doesn't feel super slow. Some small things I like are the size of the case. It leaves you plenty of room that you can put other stuff in, whereas the Air 2S case got really tight with just one extra battery. And the Air 3's battery holder charger has a cool feature that it can consolidate all the power of the batteries into just one battery. I've used this several times while I'm driving to the next location so that I could have one full battery. The SD card slot is on the back of the drone, so you don't have to open it up all the way to pull the card out. This is really small, but it is something you do over and over again, and it does make a difference. Also, plugging the drone in to USB can also charge the battery that's in the drone. And this feature is really cool because I actually forgot my charger for the Air 2S on an out-of-town shoot once, and then spontaneously used a battery, got back to the hotel, didn't have my charger, didn't have a way to charge that one battery. So it's a feature I can really appreciate. There isn't anything that I really dislike about this drone, but there are a few small things to note. I think the major thing would be the photo quality compared to the Air 2S or the Mavic 3 Pro. And this drone does take some really incredible photos, but the 12 megapixel sensor kind of does some magic to make it into a 40 megapixel photo. So it's really more like a 12 megapixel camera compared to the other ones at 20 megapixels. I think this still makes sense over the Air 2S because you get the added focal length for photos, but it's definitely something to weigh when you're considering the 3. This drone also has a fixed aperture, and this does deter a lot of people. I haven't really been bothered by it, but sometimes you do end up with slightly higher shutter speeds than I really want. NDs are basically a must, but I would have really wanted to use them anyway. I like the Polar Pro circular Pola NDs. I think adding a polarizer to the drone really can help separate your footage from someone who's not using a polarizer. The batteries charge via USB-C, which is super convenient, but it doesn't come with a charger, and if you don't use a 65-watt USB charger or higher, it can take a really long time to charge these batteries. On a normal cube for your phone, even overnight isn't long enough to charge all 3, while a 65-watt charger does get them charged in about 4 to 6 hours, or you can get a 100-watt one for even quicker charging. Lastly, the tracking on the 70mm lens can be a little tricky, but I'm not really sure if this is an issue with the drone. I think you're just asking a lot from it with all the increased motion and parallax. And it still does work great once it's locked on. Overall, I think the battery life, the 70mm second camera, and night mode alone have made this well worth the upgrade for me over the Air 2S. Is this the perfect drone? I think it is for me, but how we think about drones has changed. Gone are the days of the Phantoms and even the earlier Mavic series, where each new drone meant the image quality got that much better and then wouldn't stick out like a sore thumb when we edit it with our cinema cameras. Now the cameras are so good that these really are just tools, and some people need different tools. Maybe a used Air 2S makes the most sense for you. If you're like me, you might really benefit upgrading to the Air 3. Or maybe you need the industry standard Mavic 3 Pro. I think a lot of people do. And we haven't even talked about the Mini line, which seems really cool and has some advantages. Now that I've told you my experience, I want to know yours. Sharing your experience with drones could help someone else choose the right tool for them. Thanks for watching.